Here's my immediate take on the ending of Nolan's Odyssey, an excerpt from a longer video on the ends of Homer and Nolan compared, out soon. Needless to say, spoilers throughout. Welcome to Ancient Classics. Unlike Homer's Odyssey, Nolan's movie ends very shortly after the slaying of the suitors. Although through various montages, voiceovers and flash forwards or whatever they're called, Nolan packs a lot into his brief ending, and it's a very different ending to Homer's. In the movie, the battle with the suitors is a really close call. Odysseus is shot several times over and nearly dies in Penelope's arms. That's the closest the movie gets to the bedroom scene. We then see, in a flash forward, Odysseus setting off to sail to the west, perhaps for good. Whereas in the Odyssey, his final journey abroad is foreshadowed as a means of seeking absolution from Poseidon. In the movie, Odysseus' final journey is to atone for his sins against his own men. And he is joined by Penelope. And we see them sailing off literally into the sunset together. And in Nolan's movie, like the epic, the characters are painfully aware that Odysseus' slaying of the suitors cannot be without consequence. But in Nolan's Odyssey, there's no deus ex machina to absolve Odysseus. Because just before the battle with the suitors, Odysseus' guardian goddess Athena has disappeared. It turns out that the character portrayed by Zendaya was a Trojan woman, perhaps a priestess of Athene, who was slaughtered in front of Odysseus at the sack of Troy, at the very same moment as a statue of a goddess, again perhaps Athene, is desecrated. And Odysseus has been carrying that guilt around with him, along with his guilt for his lost men. It seems to some extent that Odysseus has been relieved of the guilt of the Trojan priestess, if she is that, but that leaves him without a divine patron. Nolan is, in this regard, absolutely faithful to Homer's cultural logic. With the slaying of the suitors, Odysseus has to go into exile, probably never to return. But he does so with his wife, thus managing to balance the personal homecoming with the brutal, ineluctable logic of a society in a way that Homer cannot manage without divine intervention. But whilst Odysseus and Penelope sail off into the sunset, Telemachus is left behind, crowned as the ruler of Ithaca, for he was mostly left out of the killing scene, thus escaping the vengeance cycle. And this choice makes a lot of sense to me. Both Homer's and Nolan's Odyssey focus heavily on Telemachus's maturing role as a leader of the next generation, and so it is fitting, even faithful to the Homeric spirit, to see him crowned as king. And yet the future is not too optimistic for Telemachus either. Here's where things get a little bit meta, shall we say. Throughout the movie, there have been rumors about sea peoples, a mysterious off-screen threat to society at large. One of the reasons why Penelope had to be about to remarry, if I followed it right, was so that Ithaca could unite under a stable leader, strong enough to withstand the coming onslaughts from the sea peoples. And so Telemachus is continuing the patrilineal line, but perhaps it's a dying line. The sea people are heralding a societal collapse, the end of the Bronze Age. So overall, I found the ending to Nolan's movie compact, mystic, emotionally compelling and cathartic in a way that Homer, with all due respect, just isn't. And yet, despite being so very different to the end of Homer's Odyssey, Nolan's ending is clever and faithful to the spirit and logic of Homer and his society. Nolan preserves Odysseus' spiritual homecoming in perhaps the only way that's possible without divine machinery and without destroying the cultural necessities of that world. And just like Homer, Nolan leaves plenty of room for ambiguity, sadness, and loss. Odysseus and Penelope have a happy ending of sorts, and Telemachus has grown into and assumed the mantle of manly power, but he is a man presiding over a dying civilization. Centuries of darkness will follow, and the stories of Troy will only be sung. And yet, as we all know, those songs of Troy will last.